We're going to start today with relief printing and with woodcut and other materials that some of you, I think we have a mix, pretty well of a mixed class here. I think you don't have much experience with printmaking, so hopefully you'll learn a little bit of something today. Other people are pretty well launched on their process, and that's great because we can all sort of help each other. So I'm going to start basically with some things and see where we go from there so that those people who don't have much experience can get some ideas. We're talking about relief printing, which is simply a process where we carve out on some surface, whether it be wood, whether it be linoleum, some other kind of 3M printing fabric or printing materials that some people have brought in, and you ink up that surface and take an impression from it. What you carve away, of course, is the idea that does not accept the ink and does not print. So that's a relief print, basically, and what it is. We'll start with a piece of wood cut here. I've got a wood. We have a nice bench block, which is a tool that can hold this in. I have a small block here. I didn't want to ruin the back of it because I'm not so sure everyone brought some wood in, but I have some old pieces of wood that we can share too. I scratched a drawing on it. It's an old student block. I used to collect. They would do a block, a nice piece of wood, and then throw the piece away, and the backside would be perfectly good to use on it. So I've got something carved on the black and this one here. So putting a drawing on with either a marker or some brush and ink, however you can get, even with pencil, but if you're working with pencil you need to be a little bit careful so that you don't indent the wood. The wood is fairly soft. We're using a pine. Some people like plywood. I've got some plywood here that you can try also. It's just a matter of not making any kind of indentations on the wood that's going to cause a problem later when you try to go to print it. So establish a drawing however you can do that on the print. And remember that I've got some text in here. This is called the heart. So you want to make sure you put that on backwards because you're going to get a mirror image when you print. I suggest you work loosely. With that I mean working with a brush or the marker, nice fat marker, because if you're beginning with the print, it's really difficult to make some very detailed cuts with this. It's a beautiful, fresh, spontaneous medium. You make a mark on this thing with your gouge and you really can't correct it. You have to live with it and kind of make some other cuts that won't be so ugly perhaps to you that can make the other cut kind. So there's no erasing with it. And it's a different way that you're probably used to working. It's a very positive way of working where your gouge has some power and energy and cuts into the wood or the material that you're using. And again, it's probably the most vital cut or mark that you could ever make because there's nothing you're going to do with. Again, you can't erase it, you can't paint over it. You have to live with it. So a little drawing on this quickly. And then what we like to do sometimes is then take a little rag with some ink stain on it, and I'm just going to stain that up quickly so that a block will look like that. Already it's got some cuts in it, but you can see what the staining will do for it. Won't take your drawing away, but we'll stain here. Different kinds of tools, folks. I don't know, I've got an assortment of tools here. These kinds of tools are wonderful. They're fairly expensive, but they'll last a lifetime, and you can give these on to your grandchildren. Basic tools should be a U-gouge, a V-gouge, and a good utility knife, and then you could build on that. I can start to do some carving, and I'm working with the grain, so it creates no problem for me. Start to chisel away. The nice thing about the woodcut, even though I've got a drawing on here, gee, I made some marks that right now they look interesting to me. I might leave them. So there's a nice dialogue that quickly begins to ensue between you and the medium. And that's the kind of thing you want to be. If you're starting out, I would not put a drawing down and try to go after the drawing completely 100%. You'd get frustrated in terms of maybe not being able to carve or chips coming out of the wood or something failing. Be open to expressing what's happening with the wood. The wood and you should be as one. So with the grain, not a problem. The V-gouge, you can explore, does some nice fine lining, can create some close marked areas that can create tone for you. Remember, the only way you get any kind of tone out of here is mixing a visual black and white. Now, we come across the grain, there could be some problem. I'm going cross grain. not working well. That's where you come in with the utility knife. You're going to make some marks that can come across, and you can cut back into that and pick that out. Or you can come across and go back to your U-gouge and slowly pick that out that way, so that you make a nice cross cut. Basically, that's the kind of, the tools that you use, the kinds of carving that can take place with it. The older the wood, piece of wood that you have, by that I mean the more seasoned it is, the better it's going to carve. So old pieces of wood are the best. Even sometimes old pieces of furniture, drawer parts are nice things to carve upon. But there's some pine. We use nice clear pine. That's a beautiful medium and works well. Well, if that's it, let's move over and see if we can get a proof or a print out of this block here. Block printing ink. I'm going to take a little bit of this out the top. We like on these pound cans, always take it off the top like this so we can spray a little anti-skin spray or something on it, and it won't, don't dig into it like a Haagen-Dazs thing. Make sure the ink is clean. There's not a lot of dried skin particles or anything that's in there that can determine be a little bit detrimental in your. Bring on a nice thin bead and roll out a nice even pattern. Don't just roll back and forth like that where the roller laps itself and does nothing about getting a good distribution on the surface. You don't want to put a lot of ink on the block immediately. It'll fill in your fine detail and what have you. So go easy with the ink. The block also may have a slight warp to it, so be aware of that and make sure that you're rolling the ink on in a certain way. So there's different kinds of paper, mulberry, kitakata, masa. So I'm just going to lay that down and put that gently on. It's tender. The rice paper is not sized paper, so it's like a piece of toilet tissue or paper towel. Smooth that all down. We have some great spoons over here to print with and start spooning. I'm just going to get this laid down quickly all over the whole block. It's still maybe a little bit tender, but at one point I can take this away and go directly onto the paper, being very careful. If that's wet, you're going to tear your sheet. So a little experience in tenderness with the spoon for printing. But you can see some of the progress. It's a fat area. Well, maybe I should do some more spooning in here so that I can see that coming through. So spooning that until you begin to see something that comes through, and then you can carefully take that off the paper. So what a proof would show me is that, yeah, maybe I needed more ink, but that's not bad for just a quick proof. A little grainy over here, but it looks like it's full on most of the parts, the linear parts of things. Let's take a rag, a little mineral spirits. We have a can of the mineral spirits, and wipe your block off. Excellent. It's been fun for me. I love printmaking. I love woodcut, and people are getting engaged and experiencing it. So it's a good day.
It's wonderful. I took this course with the Gus back in college, and I really love being back and working with him.
I've had a great time getting back into it. It's been a while since I've done a woodcut, but it's very refreshing and therapeutic so far.
It was really informative because I've never done this kind of work before, so I'm excited about doing more of this, more wood blocks.
It was fun. It's nice to know that there's a printmaking community close to home that I can come and work with.
Oh, it was wonderful. Brings back a lot of old memories. I was telling him that I've most recently done monotypes, which is a whole different process. And but I just love the carving out and printing, and it's just wonderful.
Oh, it's excellent. Getting some work done. Love talking about printmaking, nerding out. It's going good.
Great. I have no idea what I'm doing, so this is a fun, new, exciting world. Yeah, it's fun.
Today was wonderful. We had a great turnout, and I really enjoyed being back with Gus again, since so many of us had him as a professor before. And I'm making some prints, and I haven't done that in a long time, so I'm excited to get going and start printing more.